How could you be so selfish? My father's voice thundered through the open-beamed ceiling of the Hill Country Lake House, echoing off polished stone and Spanish tile. His face flushed a furious red as he paced the room in his socks, fists clenched at his sides like a man betrayed. Your sister needs that money for her business, Elena. You've got more than enough. Why would you hold back now? I stood frozen beside the fireplace, still holding the property tax bill I'd been ambushed with. Just moments ago, I'd thought we were having a casual Sunday dinner, but somehow this evening, this supposedly peaceful gathering had morphed into a tribunal, and I was the defendant. My mother sat on the far end of the long leather sectional eyes, locked on her folded hands, refusing to look up. Her silence spoke volumes. Not surprise, not concern, just passive complicity. That cut deeper than anything my father was yelling. "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though I could feel the heat climbing up my neck. "I've been covering this house's property taxes for 5 years. I paid for Jenna's car. I covered the roof replacement last year. I even covered Mom's knee surgery when insurance denied part of the claim. I never asked for anything back." He didn't even blink. "We gave you everything growing up," he barked, brushing my words aside like lint. "And now when we need you, you're abandoning us, while your sister is trying to build something with her life." I felt something shift in me, a knot tightening. That's when I saw it. Tucked beneath a copy of Hill Country Monthly on the coffee table, an envelope ivory-colored and slightly crumpled. My name wasn't on it, but Jenna's was. Jenna Shaw. Trust agreement. Just that quick, the knot turned into something sharper. I reached for it faster than I expected myself to move. My father lurched toward me too late. "Elena, that's private," he snapped. But I was already scanning the contents, legal boilerplate page after page, until the numbers jumped out at me. My eyes stopped on them like hitting a wall. $350, $1,000. A trust fund, fully funded, for Jenna, set up over 3 years ago with recurring annual contributions. For years, I had been told the family was stretched thin, that they couldn't help with my college tuition, that they couldn't spare funds when my first apartment flooded and I needed help with the deposit for a new place, that Jenna needed more help because she wasn't as independent. Yet they were building her a nest egg behind my back while treating me like their personal bank. "When were you planning to tell me?" I asked quietly. My voice didn't crack. It went flat, ice cold. My father didn't answer, just snatched the envelope back and shoved it into the magazine stack like it could somehow erase what I'd seen. But it was too late. The truth was burned into my memory along with every sacrifice I'd ever made, thinking it was mutual. Guess that explains why my student loan payments weren't important. I added more to myself than him. I saw my mother finally look up just for a second, but her expression was unreadable. "I thought you didn't need help," she said softly. "You've always been the strong one, Elena." And there it was, the line I'd heard my whole life. "You're strong." Jenna's still finding her way. She got a brand new Volkswagen at 16. I got to take the city bus in triple-digit heat while juggling after-school jobs. She got into an expensive private university with no debt. I taught myself to trade stocks at night after working 8-hour shifts at a coffee shop, and somehow, I never questioned it, until now. "Strong doesn't mean disposable," I said. My father, clearly uncomfortable, reached for a new tactic. He slid the tax bill across the coffee table toward me like that was the real topic. "The taxes are due in 3 weeks," he said, "and the HOA increased their annual fees." I stared at the bill, $9,450. After what I just discovered, he still expected me to pay. Something in me snapped, but not in the way I imagined. Not a scream, not even a tear, just a quiet seismic shift like the fault line beneath our family had finally cracked open. "I'll take care of it," I said calmly. His shoulders relaxed instantly. He missed it, the resolve that had taken root in my voice. But I heard it, and I wasn't done. Back in my high-rise apartment in downtown Austin, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call a friend to vent. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up a folder I'd quietly maintained for years, one I never thought I'd need. Family contributions. Do not delete inside were neatly labeled subfolders: property taxes, Jenna's car, medical bills, lake house repairs, vacation expenses. I built this digital archive out of habit, a leftover discipline from my day trading mindset. Every dollar mattered. Every transaction was logged, time-stamped, and stored. What began as casual bookkeeping had quietly grown into a mountain of evidence, and now it was all sitting in front of me. 5 years. $118.745. I went line by line checking for anything I missed. 5 years of property taxes, $46, $200. Jenna's car payments and insurance, $11, $168. The roof replacement on the lake house, $12,000. Mom's uncovered knee surgery expenses, $8, $200. Family gifts. I paid for vacations, holidays, surprise birthdays, $22, $400. Miscellaneous, $18,797. And that wasn't even including the $14,915 I'd calculated as lost investment growth money I could have multiplied in my portfolio had I kept it invested instead of redirecting it to my family's needs. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the total. $133 or $660. My stomach turned. While I worked 12-hour days trading volatile markets, they'd set up a $350K safety net for Jenna and still had the audacity to ask me for more. My phone buzzed. Dad, let us know when you've taken care of the taxes. Jenna. Don't be dramatic, Elena. The family needs you. You always said you were proud to help. Proud. Is that what they thought? That I felt honored to bankroll their choices while I was told there wasn't enough for me? That night, I slept 3 hours. I woke up before sunrise and drove across town to the Westlake office of Joseph Klein, my financial advisor, the man who helped me turn my modest savings into a thriving portfolio. When I showed him the spreadsheet, his eyes widened. "You never asked them to pay any of this back?" he asked, leaning forward. "No," I said. "They're my family." Joseph folded his hands, his tone gentle but firm. "Elena, you've been more than generous. But this isn't generosity anymore. It's sacrifice. And not the healthy kind." I nodded. "I know. I just found out they've been building a 6-figure trust fund for Jenna this whole time." Joseph's jaw tensed. "That changes everything. We built a plan. It started with proper documentation, then notarized statements verifying my contributions." Joseph looped in a colleague, Victor Hernandez, a forensic accountant who specialized in family financial disputes. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" Joseph asked as we wrapped up. "Yes," I said, the words firm in my mouth. "They need to understand what happens when I stop paying." 2 days later, I sat across from Victor, handing over statements, receipts, screenshots, bank logs. "This is some of the most detailed documentation I've ever seen," Victor remarked, organizing the paperwork into neat stacks. "You've basically built your own audit trail." I gave a humorless smile. "Welcome to being a day trader. We don't gamble. We track everything." After 2 hours, Victor leaned back and pushed a clean sheet of paper toward me. Total contributions, $118,745 plus a lost investment growth, $14,936.60. The betrayal wasn't emotional anymore, it was mathematical, concrete. And now I asked. "That depends," Victor replied. "Do you want legal restitution or leverage?" "Just leverage," I said, "for now." Later that night, I received another round of messages. "Dad, taxes still unpaid. It's getting close. Jenna, seriously." "Elena, you're just going to leave us hanging?" I didn't respond. Let them twist. Let them wonder. This time, silence was power. The next morning, as sunlight filtered through my apartment blinds, I brewed my coffee, sat at my desk, and started undoing 5 years of invisible labor. Click. Canceled Jenna's monthly car payment auto draft. Click. Removed my name from the automatic tax payment portal for the lake house. Click. closed shared utility account I'd been quietly covering since Dad forgot to pay it one summer. Then came the biggest shift. I opened my trading dashboard and moved $120, the amount I'd effectively donated to my family, into a new fund. I labeled it my future. 3 words: quiet, defiant, sacred. My phone pinged halfway through. Jenna again. Jenna. What the hell, Elena? The bank says my car payment bounced. Are you trying to ruin my credit? Dad's furious. Fix this. A minute later, Dad, we need to talk. This behavior is unacceptable. You can't just abandon your responsibilities to this family. Responsibilities, as if I'd signed a contract the day I turned 18 to carry their weight forever. I powered my phone off and finished transferring my accounts, putting up digital walls they couldn't climb. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel when it came to my family: peace. But it didn't last long. By noon, my phone now back on lit up like Times Square. Calls, voicemails, unread texts piling up by the minute. Mom's voicemail came in shaky. Elena, please. Your father is beside himself. The property tax notice just came in with a late fee warning. Jenna can't make her car payment. What's going on? Please call us. No mention of the trust fund, no recognition of what I'd already paid. Just panic that their ATM had run dry. Then came the knock at the gate. My intercom buzzed my building's security guard. Miss Shaw, your father is here. He's demanding to speak with you. He's quite insistent. I froze. Tell him I'm not available, I said. He says he won't leave until you come down. I sighed. Then call the police. Understood. 20 minutes later, a text from an unknown number popped up. Thomas Cousin. Just saw Uncle Greg being escorted out of your building. You okay? I blinked. Thomas and I hadn't spoken in months. Me, I'm fine. Just a family financial disagreement. Thomas. About time you stood up to them. The way they've treated you versus Jenna. Everyone's noticed. Everyone's noticed. I stared at the message. The truth was heavier than I expected. I wasn't just imagining it. I wasn't being petty or selfish. Even from the outside, the favoritism was visible. That evening, the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. Jenna. Crossed arms, pacing, foot tapping like I'd stolen her weekend plans. I opened the door, but left the security chain locked. What do you want, Jenna? She narrowed her eyes. I want to know why you're suddenly acting like a psycho. My car payment bounced. Dad says you're refusing to pay the lake house taxes. I raised an eyebrow. Correct. Why? She snapped. What's your problem? My problem, I said calmly, is that I've paid over $118,000 to this family while Dad secretly built you a $350,000 trust fund. Her expression faltered. Shock. Then guilt. Then anger. That's different, she said too quickly. The trust is for my future. I need that security. And I don't. You've always had it together, she said, as if that was some kind of sin. You're the smart one. I'm still figuring things out. You're 31, I said flatly, and I've been paying for your car, your vacations, and our parents' house. I didn't know I was financing your lifestyle while Dad set you up for life. You never complained before, she muttered, because I didn't know I snapped. I didn't know I was being lied to. She hesitated, then softened. Look, Elena, I get that you're upset, but we're family. Dad says if we don't pay the taxes, we might lose the lake house. I stared at her. That's not my problem anymore. Maybe he can use some of your trust fund. Her face turned to stone. That's not fair. I smiled sadly. No, Jenna. Nothing about this has ever been fair. And then quietly, I closed the door. 2 weeks passed. 2 full weeks of silence from my parents. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. But I wasn't fooled. The property tax deadline came and went. I saw the late fees update on the county portal. I bookmarked it out of habit, then reminded myself not to care. I poured my energy into work instead. Markets were volatile, but in a way that I loved, chaotic yet navigable. My focus sharpened without the background noise of guilt and manipulation. Joseph, my financial advisor, had helped me restructure my entire portfolio now that I wasn't bleeding cash for everyone else. For the first time in years, I was able to increase my retirement contributions and start planning for something just for me, maybe even a small lake cottage of my own, somewhere far from hill country. A place where the silence meant serenity, not weaponized guilt. Then an email from Uncle Pete landed in my inbox. Subject line, Greg and the lake house. What's going on? Elena, Greg just asked me for a $10,000 loan to help cover taxes and late penalties. He said you're refusing to support the family anymore. This doesn't sound like the you I know. Is everything okay? I stared at the message. So now Dad was panhandling the extended family for handouts while still refusing to dip into Jenna's trust fund. I took a breath and did something bold. I attached a PDF of my financial contributions, the receipts, the total, the trust fund revelation, and a brief but calm explanation. For 5 years, I quietly carried the financial burden of our family while Dad secretly built a $350,000 trust fund for Jenna. I recently decided to step back. These documents will explain why. Uncle Pete's reply came in under an hour. Holy hell, Elena. I had no idea. None of us did. Greg's been telling everyone he's doing everything equally for both of you. This changes everything. The next morning, my phone rang. Thomas, my cousin. Elena, he said. I need to tell you something. What's going on? There's a family meeting this weekend, he said quietly. At your parents' house. My heart sank. Dad's trying to rally everyone against you, he added. Says you've abandoned the family. He's planning to guilt you into covering the back taxes and then some. Of course he is, I said dryly. There's more, Thomas continued. He's spinning this story like you're trying to sabotage the family legacy, like the lake house is under threat because you're being vindictive. The audacity was breathtaking, but not surprising. Are you going? I asked. Yes. And so are you, he said firmly. You need to set the record straight. I'll back you up. I hesitated. The thought of standing in that room facing my father, Jenna, and everyone they'd lied to made my stomach twist. But the alternative, letting the lie become the family truth. No, not this time. I'll be there, I said. Saturday came faster than I expected. I dressed deliberately, black pantsuit, minimal makeup, clean hair pulled back. I needed to look like exactly what I was prepared, professional and done being used. In my briefcase, the complete documentation from Victor Hernandez, notarized statements, the final financial tally, the calculated loss of investment growth, everything down to the penny. As I pulled into the long gravel driveway of my parents' hill country house, my heart pounded, but not from fear, from clarity. This time, I wasn't walking in to explain myself. I was walking in to expose the truth. I stepped inside without knocking. The living room was full uncles, aunts, cousins. Jenna perched on the couch beside my mother, arms folded. My father stood by the fireplace, clearly mid-rant. He stopped when he saw me. Elena, he said, smoothing his shirt as if he hadn't just been throwing me under the bus. Glad you're here. We were just discussing the family vacation home situation. I'm sure you were, I replied calmly, placing my briefcase on the coffee table. And I'm sure you've shared all the relevant financial information with everyone. A murmur rolled through the room. Dad's eyes narrowed. We're discussing your refusal to meet your responsibilities. Interesting, I cut in, because I have 5 years of records showing over $118,000 in responsibilities I've already met. All while you set aside $350,000 for Jenna, privately. The room fell silent. Aunt Carla leaned forward. Wait. What trust fund? I turned to my father. Care to explain? I asked. He said nothing. So I passed out the summary sheets, one to every relative in the room. This is a verified breakdown of everything I've paid for since 2018. Property taxes, car payments, medical bills, family trips. You'll also see the trust fund document I wasn't meant to find. Shock. confusion, growing outrage. Jenna's face went pale. Uncle Pete stood. "Greg, is this true?" My father's jaw clenched. These are private family matters. And that Uncle Pete snapped is exactly the problem. You treat one daughter like a wallet and the other like a legacy. Aunt Carla nodded. "This isn't just wrong, it's abusive." The room erupted into overlapping voices, accusations, questions, defenses. I didn't speak again. I didn't need to. For the first time, the silence wasn't mine. It was his. And buried in his glare, beneath the fury, I saw something else. Not remorse, not shame, fear. Fear that the story he'd crafted for years was finally unraveling. And underneath that, the smallest flicker of something I never thought I'd see in my father's eyes when he looked at me. Respect. The meeting at my parents' house ended the way a storm does, loud, messy, and with damage you can't fully see until long after it's over. My father stormed out first, face red and jaw locked. My mother trailed behind him, offering weak apologies to no one in particular. Jenna stayed frozen on the couch, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. The rest of the family lingered, stunned by what they'd just learned. Aunt Carla shook her head as she flipped through the summary I'd provided. "I had no idea it was this bad," she murmured. "Greg always made it sound like you were the one with no empathy." Uncle Pete nodded grimly. "If you've been covering all that, you should have a stake in that house. No question." I waved a hand gently. "I don't want the house. I just want them to see it wasn't fair." Thomas, steady, kind Thomas, put a hand on my shoulder. "Recognition isn't enough, Elena. There should be consequences." I didn't respond then, but I knew he was right. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. Not with a call, not with a voicemail. A simple text from my father. "The property taxes are due." No greeting, no apology, no mention of the family meeting or the documents that had detonated his credibility. Just the same old demand. That evening, I got a call from my mother. "Elena," she said softly, "your father isn't handling this well." I could almost laugh. "You mean he's not used to being held accountable?" Her voice hesitated. "The lake house. It means everything to him. More than treating his daughters equally." The silence on her end was painful. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. "Mom, I've contributed almost $120,000 to this family," I continued. "And Dad set up a $350,000 to $1,000 trust for Jenna without ever offering me a fraction of that kind of support. That's not just favoritism. That's a pattern." "I know," she whispered. "I've always known. But your father makes the financial decisions, and I'm supposed to just accept them. I'm not doing this anymore." The next morning, I texted my father back, but not with words, with a photo. A clear, sharp image of the notarized financial statement from Victor Hernandez. The total $133,660 are circled in red. No message, no emotion, just math. An hour later, my phone rang. I expected Dad, but it was Jenna. "Elena," she said, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. Is it really that much?" "Yes," I said. "Every penny documented, every transfer, every receipt." "I didn't know," she said quietly. "Dad always said you helped out here and there. He made it sound like, you just had extra money." A pause. Then her voice cracked. "I feel sick." "It's not entirely your fault," I said honestly, "but you benefited from it." "I did," she admitted, "and I never questioned it. I just assumed I deserved it." Another long pause. Then something I never saw coming. "I'm gonna fix this," Jenna said. "It's not right." Before I could ask what she meant, she hung up. The next day, a formal envelope arrived via certified mail from my father's attorney. Inside were 2 documents. The first, confirmation that the property taxes on the lake house had been paid in full. The second, a legally binding amendment to the house's ownership deed. I now own 25% of the lake house. Attached was a note from the attorney brief and clinical at Ms. Jenna Shaw's request funds from her trust were used to cover the outstanding taxes and legal transfer fees. Ownership update effective immediately. My phone buzzed with a new text. "Dad." This wasn't necessary. Family helps family. I stared at the message. Even after everything, he still didn't get it. He still believed I existed to help. That giving wasn't something I chose, it was something expected. Another ping. Mom, your father is struggling with this, but I want you to know I'm proud of you. I should have stood up for myself years ago. And then the final message. Jenna, I've asked Dad to split the trust fund between us. He said no at first. But Uncle Pete and Aunt Carla backed me up. He's meeting with the financial advisor tomorrow. I sat down, phone in hand, the weight of it finally hitting me. It wasn't about the money. It never had been. It was about fairness, respect, truth. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt all three. Final message to viewers. Have you ever been the one expected to carry everything simply because you could handle it? Share your story below. How did you rise above the betrayal? And if this story made you feel seen, like, comment, and subscribe. Because sometimes the quiet one is the one who ends it all with a single word: no. The following weekend, I did something small but monumental. I drove out to a quiet spot on Lake Travis, far from the drama of our family lake house, and toured a modest 2-bedroom cottage listed for sale. Cedar siding, wraparound porch, a little garden out back where wildflowers fought to reclaim the soil. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. It could be mine. As the realtor chatted beside me, describing the lake's seasonal charm, I found myself tuning out. Not because I wasn't listening, but because my mind kept drifting to a different sound. Silence. A silence not born of tension or manipulation, but of peace, of freedom. I wasn't escaping the family anymore. I was choosing me. When I returned to Austin that evening, my phone buzzed. Jenna. Dad met with the financial advisor today. He agreed to restructure the trust. We're each getting $175,000. Uncle Pete made sure it's binding. I blinked. I didn't know what stunned me more, that my father agreed or that Jenna pushed that hard for it. You didn't have to do that, I texted back. Yes, I did, she replied. You shouldn't have had to carry this family alone. I was wrong. So was Dad. You gave us everything. It's time you got to keep something for yourself. That night, I walked to my balcony, looked out over the city skyline, and let the wind hit my face. For years, I'd been conditioned to think love meant sacrifice. That being dependable meant being invisible. That being strong meant being silent. But none of that was true. Because when I stopped carrying the weight, everything shifted. Jenna stopped leaning. My mother started speaking. And my father, well, for once he listened. He didn't apologize. Not fully. But sometimes actions speak louder than words. And a notarized document splitting a 6-figure trust fund evenly, that was a start. A week later, I received an official packet in the mail, final confirmation of my 25% ownership of the lake house. Attached was a simple note from Jenna, handwritten in neat loops. We spent summers there. I want you to be part of its future, not just its past. Thank you for opening our eyes. Love, Jay. I folded the note carefully and tucked it into a drawer I once reserved for bills and overdue obligations. Now it held only one thing: proof that silence doesn't mean surrender, and family doesn't mean unquestioned loyalty. It means reciprocity. It means respect. It means, if nothing else, finally being seen. Have you ever realized your silence was enabling someone else's entitlement? Tell me below what made you finally say enough. Share your story. Like if you've ever been underestimated. Subscribe for more true stories of quiet strength turned unstoppable power. Because the most powerful word in any language is the one that finally sets you free.